Okay, today we're going to be doing a little bit of a deviation from what everybody else is talking about, okay? I get it, all right? One Piece chapter 1107 just came out, and we got some interesting lore dumps about Blackbeard's lineage, okay? Mentioning his special abilities, and then Saturn brought up, oh yes, his lineage is also very special, or his lineage is also unique, okay? That got a lot of people thinking, is Blackbeard a buccaneer? Is he part maybe Lunarian, or there's something else going on with his actual lineage? But then there's also references to maybe it's I think he's probably Rox's son is where we're going with that. I mean, possibly. Maybe it's a lineage that goes all the way back to Joy Boy. Maybe Blackbeard is the blood descendant of Joy Boy, right? Okay, now listen. I will discuss all of that in due time, and there's plenty of other YouTubers that made videos about that particular topic, but not today. Today, we are giving this man an appreciation post. Woo! Van Augur! Yeah! Because you know what? This guy has been working overtime for the last several weeks and really doesn't get a respite. So you know what? I'm giving him a standing ovation. In fact, I will stand. I will stand for Van Augur, okay? All right, yes. Yes, standing. Van Augur. You know what, Van Augur? You get a teching tumble. It's been a while since we've done one, but you're Van Augur, you son of a gun, and you use a gun. So I'm gonna do a teching tumble just for him. Get out of here, chair. Get over here, giant beanbag. All right, teching, finger gun tumble. Yeah, that's how it is right there. Yeah, okay. Why do the Straw Hat crew do as well as they do, other than the fact they're the main characters of the manga and they have a little bit of plot armor, okay? The whole theme, the whole idea of a pirate crew, and Luffy exemplifies this, is that Luffy realizes he can't become king of the pirates on his own. He needs a crew of people to help him, all right? He realizes there's a lot of stuff I don't know how to do. I don't know how to fix a ship. I don't know how to do medical stuff. I don't know how to navigate. I don't know how to cook. So that's the whole point of a pirate crew. It's nakama. It's friends coming together, okay? And everybody on the crew has their own strengths and everything like that. So, applying that logic to Blackbeard's crew. Blackbeard would not have gotten as far as he did if it wasn't for his crew. And when you look through Blackbeard's crew, at least the 10 Titanic captains, which is the core, I'm assuming there are other members. We see foot soldiers and random deckhands at all times with Blackbeard's crew. But when it comes to the core of it, it's the 10 Titanic captains, and there's nobody else. Burgess doesn't have, an understudy or something. I mean, maybe he does. I don't know. He's teaching his Mexican luchador skills with. I don't know. But out of the 10 Titanic captains, there are 3 of them. 3 that I think serve the core of how successful the Blackbeard pirates have done. In a lot of ways, Blackbeard himself, Marshall D. Teach, is very similar to Luffy, and Oda has even shown us these similarities. The first time they met at Jaya, there were similarities. That was kind of the whole point, right? Because Luffy is chaos in a lot of ways, all right? Luffy will have a crazy idea hey guys, we're going to that island. There's giant monsters there. I know, let's go, right? And so the crew has to kind of all right, captain's pointing us to the giant monster island, giant kaiju island. I guess we're going there, right? We're going to Skull Island. All right, we're going to Skull Island. Why not? And they'll figure it out as they go because they're a crew and they trust each other, okay? Blackbeard, in the same vein, he gets a lot of crazy ideas in his head, Zehahaha, I know what we'll do. We'll become warlords, and then we'll become emperors, and then we'll assassinate Whitebeard, all that kind of stuff, right? Maybe not necessarily in that order. I guess become warlord, then assassinate Whitebeard, then become a Yonko. But I think these 3 Titanic captains are really the ones, and really it's only 2, because the third one is Kuzan. Kuzan has a good head on his shoulders, okay, and he's pretty logical in a lot of things, but Kuzan didn't come until a lot later, okay? So the 2 we're really talking about here are Van Augur and Lafitte, all right? So keep that in mind. And honestly, it's more for Augur. In fact, if you're going to look at the Straw Hat crew, who is the glue that really holds the Straw Hat crew together while they're at sea? I would argue that's actually Nami. because Luffy is like just, hanging out on the figurehead of the Sunny. Zoro's asleep. It's Nami that's the one that really is, has a finger on a pulse, as it were, of the ship while it's sailing around and everything like that. And he's like, hey, we're doing this now, listen to me. And everybody kind of listens to Nami, right? So I kind of look at Van Augur in that respect, even though it's obvious that, like, Van Augur is going to fight Usopp. They're both the marksmen. He's the one that's the tactician. He's the one that's intelligent. He's the one, he honestly gives me the air of, like, some kind of philosopher sometimes, because the first time we get introduced to Van Augur, he shoots down those seagulls, outside of Jaya, and he has a line of, like, those poor birds. I was unable to kill one of them with a single shot. Oh, well, such is the fate of your actions. So he's acting like that, kind of philosophical, kind of deep. I wouldn't be surprised if Van Augur came from, like, a noble family. Not like a Tenryubito or anything like that, but like a noble family. He kind of has that air about him, okay? And there's a little bit of arrogance and ego in there, too. I mean, the dude has this rifle. He's definitely murdered a lot of people, right? Look at all the other members of the 10 Titanic captains, okay? So we already mentioned Blackbeard being as chaotic as he is, okay? Captain of the first ship, we got Jesus Burgess. He's a big, tough guy. Ooh-wee, I can lift up rocks and throw them. Fantastic when it comes to the Vanguard. Amazing when it comes to busting heads. Phenomenal when you need to punch a battleship in half, right? But I don't think Burgess is the forward tactician and thinker of the Blackbeard crew. All right? Captain of the second ship, Shiryu of the Rain. This dude definitely has intelligence, but also more of a serial killer kind of vibe. In fact, a lot of the Blackbeard pirates are gonna have that kind of vibe, right? It's, Shiryu has this level of bloodthirst about him. When he worked at Impel Down, that was like a constant thing where he would just go off and just, like, slice up prisoners, and that's why Magellan had to throw him in level 6. So he has kind of like a little bit of a Hisoka thing kind of going on, where Shiryu will have, like, a job to do, and he'll carry it out, but he might get distracted and have to go slice up a bunch of people to satiate that bloodlust, okay? Then you have Augur, who's captain of the third ship, good head on his shoulders, knows what to do, knows how to get the job done. When he's given an order, he knows how to do it. He doesn't get overly, like even in the last chapter, this was a perfect example, okay? Augur went with Katarina to Egghead, and their job apparently was for Katarina to, touch Saturn to gain his appearance, whether it be his Gorosei appearance or spider appearance, whichever, that was the job, okay? And they carried out that job. They did not even seem surprised or bothered by the fact that, oh yeah, one of the Gorosei is here. Also, by the way, he's a giant spider, okay? So that means that, like, yeah, they probably knew about that beforehand. They were given that intel by somebody, probably Lafitte. We'll get to him in a moment. That was probably the idea there. And Augur, though, it was like, that was the job I was given. I'm here. I'm going to fulfill it, and that's the way it goes. And then he just warps Katarina and him out there, out of Saturn's reach, and then they escape. And well, then Caribou approaches them, and we'll see where this conversation goes. Actually, I'm very interested. I really hope Oda continues this conversation right where it left off. I hope we don't cut away for a while. I really hope we see Caribou pleading his case with Augur, and Augur's the one that's like, Like, if any of the other Blackbeard pirates were there, like if it was Katarina and Burgess, or Katarina and Shiryu, I feel like Shiryu would have just, like had the bloodthirst and maybe, like, sliced apart Caribou right there. But Augur is the one that's going to be like, I'll hear you out. Why do you want to join our crew? And then Caribou will be like, oh, well, because I know stuff about the ancient weapons. Do you? Well, they say the ancient weapons are named after deities. Do you know which ones they are? Like, Augur would be the one to, like, question him, is like, what do you really know about the ancient weapons? Do you have information that we could actually use, or are you just all bluster and bravado here? It's like, oh yeah, so there's Poseidon, and that's actually the mermaid princess, and it's actually Shirahoshi. I was there. In fact, I almost captured her, but then those damn straw hats got in the way. It's blah, blah, blah. And then Augur would be like, yes, okay, well, I think you should come meet our captain at least, and I'll vouch for you. It's something of that nature, right? Okay. Captain of the fourth ship of Ala Pizarro, also I think, yeah, might have some intelligence there, but he's the corrupt king. He is a tyrant. There was an instance where he was trying to, like, oust Teach and become the captain himself. So, like, if anybody out of all of the Titanic captains might betray Blackbeard to try to become the new captain, I could kind of see Avalo being that guy, because he's kind of already outright said it. Okay, maybe somebody you should, keep your friends close, enemies closer kind of situation there. He has the island fruit. He's this giant dude, and he was a little bit reckless with the way he acted, because he said, like, oh, if I'm too reckless, then Teach will get mad at me for busting up the island and everything like that. So, yeah, just the fact he was very tyrannical, okay? Lafitte, 5th ship captain, also very smart and very methodical and very devious, and he's a hypnotist, and he can, like, mesmerize people into doing certain things. However, also keep in mind, little bit of a serial killer. He used to be a peace officer in the West until one day he just started murdering people, okay? And also, he's a mime, so I don't know if that accounts for anything, but, if you've ever watched One Piece D&D, mimes are, you just never know, right? You just never can tell, okay? So, yeah. Also, there was the moment when they were drinking with Kuzan. Kuzan had not joined the crew yet, but they were just kind of hanging out, having a good time. And Lafitte was the one that kind of leaned over to Blackbeard, with Kuzan still in earshot, by the way, and was like, hey, Captain, I think we should probably steal his devil fruit. And then Kuzan is like, you want to fight? I knew you were here. And, like, Blackbeard had to be like, okay, no, shut up, Lafitte, you freaking moron. It's like, that's not what he's an idiot. Don't listen to him. We just wanted you to join our crew, right? We're not going to try to steal your devil fruit and kill you, all right? We're not going to do that, all right? So Lafitte also, that deviousness, I think, is to a level where it's like he's always trying to, like, maybe not double cross somebody, but he's always trying to get the angle of, like, how can this benefit us, okay? And it's kind of like that guy in a D&D campaign that's like, I think we should just kill him, It's like, that's always that kind of character. That is Lafitte, all right? But out of all of them together, I would say Lafitte and Augur are the ones that maybe will make Teach's plans actually work out. Now, in that regard, there was still the time they walked directly into Impel Down into Magellan's poison, and Augur and Lafitte were there, and they all got doused in it, and if it wasn't for Shiryu, they probably would have died. So they still can make mistakes every now and then, but out of the 10, I'd say those two are the most intelligent. All the other ones have a lot of very issues. Katarina Devon is also a serial killer. San Juan Wolf is like kind of a big lumbering oaf kind of character. He just kind of seems to be sleeping a lot of times, and when he does get to move around, he's just like, oh, what's going on? That kind of stuff. Vasco Shot, he's very cruel, it was mentioned, and if his attitude and what he said when they were at Amazon Lily is any indication, there's something else that's pretty devious about him. The way that he acted is like, oh, when we get Boa, we're going to have a night with her, right? And it's like, yeah, so no. And then Doc Q. Doc Q is like one of the most sadistic guys. He's also very serial killer-y, but he's also just like, I'm going to hand out apples that blow up. Or like, all right, yeah, he's the guy you should be wanting to make a lot of really important decisions. And then we finally have Kuzan, right? So out of all of them, a lot of the Blackbeard pirates have these bloodlust kind of tendencies and other tendencies, and it's just like, yeah, they might go off and satiate those more carnal desires rather than staying focused for the task at hand here, okay? Van Augur will stay on task. Van Ogre, as the subtitles said in that one episode, because it's Augur, but it is pronounced kind of more like Oga, or maybe he's an actual ogre. There you go. And as for the Van part of his name, I don't know. Maybe before Blackbeard found him, he was living in a van down by the river with Chris Farley, apparently, who's the 11th member of the Blackbeard Pirates. Chris Farley, Matt Foley, the Blackbeard Pirates motivational speaker. Anybody? 90s Saturday Night Live reference? Anybody get that? I've mentioned Chris Farley on here before. I think a few people get it. A few old-timers get it. All right. And Stronger. You know what? Honestly, if it was a choice between having to leave something in charge with the person that is a serial killer for women exclusively, or the person that's a serial killer for everybody, just, you know, anyone really, shit or you, doesn't really discriminate, or the giant that sleeps most of the time, or the guy that's handing out exploding apples. I would probably select Stronger the horse as, like, yeah, you're the one that might actually carry out the job, all right? So there's that situation. So we got Augur and Lafitte, okay? What's up with Lafitte right now? We don't know. He's at the soup store, I guess, picking up some cloves for Blackbeard or whoever needs what. Honestly, I think it makes the most sense that Lafitte is the mole inside of the government, because the way that Katarina and Augur reacted to Saturn is they knew he was going to be there. In fact, honestly, and I did this, I talked about this in a stream yesterday, and the chat was talking about this, and we were all saying, like, you know what? It honestly makes a lot of sense that Van Augur might have been the one to actually help out Luffy there, because that really, there's really no other explanation. Like, if Kizaru didn't help him, who can move super fast, the big confusing thing about Luffy during that whole exchange was he was at one place and then he just popped away and disappeared, okay? And then he appeared by the vending machine, and then he was, you know, freed and stuff like that. It makes sense that Van Augur goes over and moves Luffy around to keep him alive, moves him over to the food, and then pops back over to a high vantage point, like on top of one of the buildings, and then waits for Luffy to go gear fifth, punch Saturn in the face, send him flying. And how coincidental was it that where Saturn landed after the Dawn Gatling, Augur and Katarina were just waiting for him there. So, like, they were like a high vantage point, like, all right, Luffy's gear fifth, and he's probably going to punch Saturn in 3, 2, what? Yep, okay, punches Saturn. He's gotten sent flying to the east. All right, let's go. Warp. All right, touch Saturn. Great. Teach is going to take over the world. Bye. And then he warps away. Okay, this is a very planned, methodical kind of deal. All right. Man, and so Augur was, you know, Augur has been part of, like, every major mission. Augur was there with Kuzan when they were capturing Pudding. Augur was there with Blackbeard and Burgess and Doc Q when they were attacking Law's Heart Pirates, and now he's present here on Egghead with this mission, okay? So Augur is being sent to all these important missions. I don't think just because he has the Warp Fruit, although the Warp Fruit is a pretty handy thing because it basically immediately allows you to escape out of any situation, even though he did admit, I don't have complete control over it yet, so the idea is once he learns to master it, he could warp maybe off islands. The whole idea is that he has a rifle called 1,000 Lands, and he has a crazy accurate, like, he could shoot a bullet, like, several kilometers away, you know, so once he masters the power of the Warp Fruit, he might be able to go from island to island. That wouldn't be a ridiculous thing. Actually, as I was at the gym earlier today, and I was thinking about this video, and I was thinking, dude, in the final battle between the Blackbeard Pirates and the Straw Hat Pirates, so Van Augur versus Usopp, right? I'm picturing a scene where Augur is warping around the battlefield and, like, firing at Usopp, and Usopp starts figuring out, like, his ability and how he can teleport, and Usopp is, like, one step ahead of him, so he's, like, firing at the spot before Augur even gets there, and then Augur gets to a point where he's like, okay, this guy's really good at, you know, sniping. I am going to warp, like, 2 miles away to reassess the situation and then think about what I'm going to do next. So Augur zips away from the battlefield, lands, like, several kilometers away, and is, like, reloading his gun and, like, all right, this guy is really skilled. I got to figure out. And then even when he's, like, 3 kilometers away, Usopp still has a beat on him. Like, Usopp's gonna beat the teleportation powers by firing even further than he's ever fired before. Like, it doesn't matter how far Augur, like, maybe the limit to his fruit is, like, 10 miles or something. Usopp could still fire it. Usopp could fire around the curvature of the earth. That is how skilled he's gonna be. You know, maybe something like that. But it's going to be a cool fight. The Augur versus Usopp fight is one that I'm the most hyped for. I mean, like, Zoro versus Shiryu is obviously going to be up there, but I really want to see that Van Augur versus Usopp fight bad, okay? And so what's the plan now exactly? Well, if you got Lafitte on the inside of the government, hypnotizing like a government official or a vice admiral or something to give him information, because there's only a few select Marines that knew that Saturn was there. Essentially just the vice admirals and Kizaru, okay? So maybe Lafitte, maybe not right there at Egghead, but maybe Lafitte at some other point in the government, I mean, hypnotized somebody really high up and they're leaking information to him, okay? And then he passes that information on to Augur and Katarina, right? So if you got Lafitte on the inside, Augur with the teleportation ability, Katarina that can now assume the form of a Gorosei, and Caribou also now there giving them info on the ancient weapons and maybe some other stuff that Caribou might have heard along the way. Oh, by the way, side note, because I got some comments about this. Caribou did not hear what Luffy's dream was. That is very important to understand. Like, Oda even directly mentioned this, okay? Because some people were thinking, well, wait a minute, Caribou was on the ship when Luffy told everybody what his dream was, so now Caribou might tell Blackbeard, and that might, you know, there might be something there with, like, Luffy's dream being similar to Blackbeard's dream or whatever, and Blackbeard might, like laser focus on Luffy for right now. Like, the idea that if Augur was the one to help Luffy get the food, their target is not Luffy right now. Their target is getting the Gorosei, okay? And they just knew that Luffy was going to be able to punch out Saturn, like, oh, they're using Luffy to get to what they need, right? Anyway, so, no, Oda directly mentioned this in, I think, the last SBS, SBS 106, that Caribou was in the barrel, and it was very loud around him, and he even mentions in the chapter, like, Caribou's like, I can't hear anything. So, no, Caribou did not hear about Luffy's dream. That's not going to be a plot point there, but he has heard about a lot of other stuff. He knows about Poseidon. He knows about Shirahoshi being an ancient weapon. He also knows the names of all the ancient weapons. He knows about Pluton being under Wano. He knows about the secret of Wano. He knows a lot about this stuff. And now all that information is going to go to Blackbeard, okay? And Caribou is probably going to become, maybe not a Titanic captain, but like on the crew. He's going to be maybe working under Van Augur or something like that. Dude, that would actually be Augur with the ability of teleportation and Caribou with his like infinite pocket dimension storage space. There's some shit that can be done with that. In fact, maybe the final battle will be Augur teaming up with Caribou, providing like all the infinite ammunition and rifles and stuff, and then Augur can just have like an infinite supply of that, and so he just never runs out of ammo. Might be something like that. They really should have dealt with that Caribou issue a while ago, right? But yeah, just an appreciation post for Van Augur. Because he is the unsung hero here. Everybody in the last chapter is talking about Blackbeard's lineage and what Katarina's going to do with the form of the Gorosei. But man, Augur has been pulling like several shifts non-stop. He's tired. He's exhausted. He's running on 5-hour energy and just his determination right now. He's very weary, but he'll see the job through to the end, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Well, thanks for watching. This will be Teching, signing out. Can we get that end screen? You bet we can. Maybe.